Good morning YouTube, we're on the way to the lab. Today we got a bike test to find out my thresholds, the aerobic and anaerobic threshold, and of course a bit the VO2 max, but that's not so relevant. And yeah, the most important is finding the new thresholds, hopefully new, because we need them for the new training block. We did like recently like a bit of a step test at home. How long ago? 1.5 months maybe. But now we got a more accurate look under the hood, and really excited for it. Look forward to seeing my mentor Elias as well at Hula facility here in Helsinki. Definitely the leading one in Finland, maybe the leading one in Europe, maybe the leading one in the world, who knows. I've been in a lot of tests, and this is by far the highest level. In different countries I've been. And yeah, anyway, so very lucky, happy, and I think it's all coming together why things are supposed to be like that. But we're heading there now. That's the first session of the day. Then at lunch, after a little nap probably, we'll be having a 5K swim, and then in the afternoon we head to the treadmill and got our VO2 max run 6 times 5 minutes at VO2 max pace, and that'll be my Tuesday. Absolutely love my bike. Look at this beauty. So we did some upgrades. I mean, this is the bike, for reference, I bought just when it came out from Kenny in 2020. Invested a big chunk of money, 12 grand. It came with those wheels. Did quite a few upgrades since then, some aero upgrades, and yeah, the bike fitting as we were in Sweden this year, so I'm confident I got a really good position going on. But it's the first time I actually put it off the trainer since September. It's mid-March now. It's also the first time it's been out, except for the other tests, right? And now it's exciting to get a bit also closer towards the race season. And how we're gonna do it, I think, to always, I mean, our goal is to go obviously towards the top, towards winning. And do I have world champion winning numbers right now? Nope, not gonna happen this year. But we got some much better numbers. So I thought how we do it. One of the metrics for success is gonna be as well, we kind of put the stats up of like my PBs in power, pace, swim pace, and objective times for swim, bike, run before the half distance. The first half distance of this year will be in early May, 4th of May, 70.3 Pro Series in Venice, Italy. So we look the stats up of like power, swim pace, and time, as I said, and then we compare to, okay, what is it going to be after the race, right? After the first one, and then the same for the full Ironman mid-June, which is the main race. So there I'm definitely, you know, for example, half distance, I mean, if you don't run 110 or under, you're not going to win, right? I can't run 110 yet. But I have some numbers in mind that I'm excited for. So I'm excited for what's coming. Here we are, Olympic Training Center, Helsinki. The Olympic rings right there. And for all you guys all the Finns who else wants to come, I organized a little discount code for you guys. So you get 10% on all the testing. It's really all you need basically. The good thing is, even if you're like an amateur, let's say you're doing 10 hours a week, like which is pretty common if you're training like that, not knowing your LT1, LT2 heart rate zones, exact ones, you're really wasting quite a bit of time in training probably. So just knowing those, they're gonna last you for a long time. It's gonna change everything. You don't have to retest the paces and all that stuff like I do now. That's not really needed for everybody. But yeah, so just say Matti and Elias. When you write the message, you say coming from Matti and through Elias, and you got 10% off for the testing. So let's get in there. Okay. We have the testing with Elias in Hula.
Yeah, I will open you the...
Perfect, kiitos. I got pretty much everything here. They got altitude. I could in theory live here on 3,000 meters altitude if I wanted to. They got like hotel rooms, let's say, where you can train and everything. Yeah, if I wanted to, I could do that. There are all kinds of facilities here, super high level. That's more or less luck, to be honest. I don't know, that wasn't planned before I moved here, that I had the highest level. So it's just a few things coming together, how they're supposed to be. But yeah, it's cool. Exciting to have this, because I know even before in Switzerland and Germany, I didn't have remotely the same level of support like I do here. Also, my wife works here. She did the research here, a master thesis, and I don't know, it's just a lot of things coming together. So yeah, let's get in there. Oh, hey, how are you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Miten menee?
Ja, hyvin, kiitos. Ja sinne? Oh, it's fresh in here. So we got the in-body testing first, which is like a body scan. Then we also take a blood test to check all the markers for ferritin, iron, all the other stuff. And we'll go together through the whole blood test later with Elias. Or how is it? Do we get all the blood test results today? You do it all in here, right?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow?
Yeah.
Right.
I'll go another laboratory to
Alright, it goes anyway. So
analyze.
then we go through. But for sure also go through all the blood stuff. I think that's important. To be transparent on all sides, also with blood, right? Especially with elite sports, endurance sports. Good to show the bloods. Because, yeah. Some people are hiding stuff in the blood that shouldn't be in there.
Yeah.
Not me. Yeah,
Sure. These. Yes, you can do that. Okay.
So ramp test first?
So the step test first,
Step test, yeah.
and then the ramp test. So last time I think we did the ramp test first and then the step test. So just switch those around, and at least we'll learn something new from that as well. But I think,
Sure.
anyway, we'll still have plenty of time between the tests to have some time for recovery. And I don't know.
So one would be better for threshold, and the other one better for thresholds, and the other
Yeah.
one's better for VO2 max.
Yeah. The idea is that with the step test, we actually give your body enough time to react to each load and achieve somewhat of a steady state during each load. So it's better for estimating thresholds, but because it's such a long test and gradual test, you might not get your highest VO2 numbers there. So
Yeah.
you might fatigue a bit earlier. Whereas for the ramp test, it's better for testing VO2 max because we progress at quite a quick rate to get to your VO2 max.
Short and spicy.
Yeah, but because we increase load every minute there, it doesn't give enough time for your body to, so the VO2 threshold numbers, etc., won't actually be representative
Yeah.
of the actual workloads.
Yeah, good. Ate well, a lot of carbs, and
Just put that there. Easy spinning to prepare your body for it. Keep that where you want it during the test. So I was looking at the strength training you've been doing. So you've been doing like 60 kilos with the squat. Has that been like an idea that's like quite sub-maximal for you, what you're doing there?
yeah, I did 70 last time.
Yeah.
It's not hard, like I have another 20, 30 kilos in me if I wanted to, but like,
Yeah.
it all adds up, like
Yeah.
small things. So I did already yesterday, I went down to, like you said, 3 to 4 reps
Yeah.
and like a bit more explosive. Not with squats, but anyway, I will. It's not like those 20 kilos more are gonna get me anywhere closer to where we aim. So rather do a bit quicker, but let's say 50 kilos, I'll try that.
Yeah.
I did more help more than, because I did those more like a normal slow up and down.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mainly do it for like core connecting everything. I don't think I get more from 70 and 50, so it's just fun.
Was it 180 or?
I mean, the warm-up, I think we did in 150, but the step test, I think 180, yeah. I can check it.
Yeah, so 180 was the first one where you measured what?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, and I can also check that from the email, of course. While you're warming up, just pay attention to that trailer and everything is feeling stable. If we need to adjust anything, we'll do that. And there we have target power. So 150 for now, just get the blood flowing a bit. And yeah, big chain ring in the front and roughly,
So quick recap, we're doing two test protocols with a break in between. The first one is for the first and second threshold, the aerobic threshold, which resonates to full Ironman distance, and the second threshold is the anaerobic threshold, which, for example, if you're running 10k, it's like a 10k effort in running, and on the bike it's like a 1 hour maximum power, let's say. So that's that. So we are stopping after I'm over my second threshold. Then we have a little break, and then we have a shorter protocol with 1 minute steps. Now it's 5 minute steps. And the shorter one is just for VO2 max to really push the high end, to kind of find the peak power, peak everything. Go to the well a bit and have some fun.
6 times 15 at 330, 340, 3 by 15 at 350 should be more. Come more easily. But we'll see, and also we'll see the responses today.
With the 30-30s, do you think there's more benefit to staying under this, like as you said, like see it as a threshold set? Because I feel sometimes the last ones I pushed a bit more, and I could feel I'm probably over 4 more. Is that a good idea or not?
I'd rather keep them at like more thresholdless in terms of the work we do.
It helps more than, let's say, this strength thinking, put more power.
I think my thinking there is that we want to have the sort of metabolic responses in the threshold range for those. But
okay, then I don't have to like build those.
You don't need to. Yeah, definitely don't need to worry about like pushing them, because like you should feel like you could execute them at a harder power output.
Okay.
If you feel that they're max, then
no. Last time I did progress them to like 440, 240s, but not an aero. So now it's aero time.
Yeah.
So just the first test again. Ramp test for the thresholds, LT1, LT2. It's going to be in aero position, because there's still muscle-wise a small difference for everybody, no matter how trained. But like for me, definitely a bit more still. I have to train it now between the aero position power and sitting up power. And obviously I need the aero position power. But so for the first test, the ramp test for the thresholds, we do step test. We do it in the aero position, and then for the VO2 power or VO2 max, we do it sitting up and just maximum power sitting up, where you can create a bit more. Because then, what we do, what we had last time a bit, that you kind of test sitting up, and then you do the threshold set, which, according to the test, sitting up you should have, let's say, 350, but I produced a bit more lactate, and I kind of could do them at 330, 340, so just a little bit down, but that had to do with muscular conditioning of aero position. So now we do all the key intervals mid-march anyway, so now it's time for doing all of them in the aero position.
Comfortable. One more wire. Yeah, it's okay to stop pedaling now. Then you don't have to fiddle around too much.
I ordered 50 new lactate strips, so we're good for the next block.
Good.
But yeah, you can tell for threshold training, it's so important, huh? I mean,
Yeah, and you can just hold that like gently there. So,
yeah.
all right, I'll put the resting measurement on, so you can just stay still and 1, go. First one. Stop pedaling now. Just stay there for a bit. I'll get one more. One at the example after the test, and after that I'll switch you to an easy load to start recovering a bit.
So the first one is done, and we're doing a little spin in between now. We stopped the last interval in aero at 360 watts and analyze after. But I can tell for sure a lot of work in aero position ahead, that's for sure. But all good. So soon is the hard one that's gonna be sitting up. Look forward to that, see what I can crank out. And then we got some really good values for training. We're just thinking about it because, you know, you can, what I did before for years, that you do everything in aero, every interval, like some coaches, and try to say everything in aero because you race in aero, right? Because what that led me to do is that my top end and my high peak power, I don't know, it went away. I mean, we didn't train VO2 max either, so that was completely shut. But anyways, now it's perfect. I think I'm always gonna do it. That when you're further out from the race season, you do your hard VO2 interval stuff sitting up, because your heart and lungs, you can really push it. Yes, you produce a bit more power in sitting up than aero, sure. But your heart and lungs, you can really rev it up. Because before, when you're in aero, you're a bit, like I said, those 20 watts less, and even heart and lungs, they work a bit less. Effort is still just as high, but you can't go into those high zones and like really distribute your metabolic profile. And now I could, and now closer to race season, which obviously you need the conditioning in the aero position. So now you fill the blanks in the middle, but you got this nice work in the background. And yeah, I think it's a really good system, feels really good. So we're doing 1 minute reps now. We start at 150 watts, 180. 150 watts, 1 minute increase, and 30 watts more each 1 minute. Last time I checked out at 480 watts, 40 seconds in. So obviously we're gotta beat that. But let's see. 500. 530. Let's see. I don't know.
So when you can start pedaling. So
To the moon!
Wow. I'm on 420 watts now. 60. Good, it's going really well. Keep the leg turn, keep the leg turn. You're starting to hit higher VO2, about as where you finished last time for VO2, so come on, keep on pushing now. Yeah, come on. 1 minute to where you finished previously. Come on, short segment, short segment. Now you're still going up, still going up, still going up. Come on, come on, come on. All the way, all the way, all the way. Come on. And 480, 40 seconds to where you finished previously. Come on, come on. Doesn't have to be pretty. Everything you've got. Come on. Yeah, come on, it's going up. Yeah, really good. Come on, yeah, you're starting to hit much higher numbers. Come on. Yeah, keep on pushing, keep on pushing, keep on pushing. Come on, all the way, all the way, all the way, all the way. 20 seconds to where you finished previously. Come on, all the way. Come on, Matti. Yeah, it's looking really nice. Come on. Yeah, up, 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 up. Yeah, 10 seconds to where you finished previously. Come on. Come on, push it, push it, push it, push it, push it. Yeah, it's doing very well, really well. Come on, yeah, keep on pushing, keep on pushing, keep on pushing. This is where you finished last time. Come on, everything is better now. Come on. Up, 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 up. Yeah. 15 seconds to kill 5-10. Come on, come on. Come on, 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 come on. Keep on pushing, keep on pushing, keep on pushing. Big breath, big breath, big breath. Yeah, come on, come on, come on, come on. Yeah, and 5-10, come on. You can push it, 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 push it. Yeah, that's good. Really good. Yeah, just give me your hand. Wrong finger.
Paper. Paper.
Yeah, and you can just lightly hold that there. I'll grab another handhold.
Yeah, now it's like filling the gap. We did the ends, right?
Yeah, so now we've got your VO2 max up by at least like 0.2 liters per minute to the extra 20 watts in terms of power output, and at least at the top end. So that's nice.
Progress.
I need to look at the actual exact value that I really bring the price by.
How are you feeling?
Good, yeah. Happy. I could really. So when I started doing those, I was so unconditioned. For me, it's just doing aerobic work and triathlon training. So I had no top end, no metabolic flexibility. And now with the lungs, all in, the lungs were not working. Just when I did this before and test for years, the legs just shut down, but heart, the lungs were not nearly anywhere next to max effort. And now I can feel like I really, what you would want, like really tap into heart and lungs. And yeah, feels good. Test in the bank. Looks like I'm going to office or something. It is like a job. It's just not 8 hours office. It's a bit more condensed, but maybe a bit harder in that short term. But I'd much rather do this. No, I love it. Don't know what to say yet. It was good. I did my absolute best, and we have really good targets. We're gonna analyze it in a bit, and yeah, progress for sure. So.
All right, so yeah, to start going through the results. First of all, body composition. The weight's been pretty stable, a bit up today from where it's been at, but I think that's mainly
due to water mass was a bit higher. Fat mass is actually at a similar level compared to the previous test we did. So and skeletal muscle mass is also a bit higher. So it looks like it's mainly just a bit of water retention, maybe from just increasing carbohydrate intake a bit for this test. But I mean, I think now we want to just focus on keeping it at a fairly stable level. We can already see that your fat mass is at like quite a low level. So 6.9 kilos of fat mass now. So it's definitely
Was it 9% or?
so fat percentage is 8%.
8% body fat. Okay.
Body fat. Yeah. So I mean, but anyway, I think the weight is something that we'll probably focus a bit more later on as well, or at other
at home the scale. I'm a bit surprised to see here today was 85.6 after breakfast kilograms after breakfast and coffee. But at home the scale is at most like sometimes 81, 82 sometimes.
Yeah.
So it was more around there. But anyways, it's such a playing with fire that if I train that hard as it were now, I keep the protein and the fats the same.
Yeah.
And I mean, I notice if I go too low with carbs, it's just you can't perform. You can forget it. So
Yeah. And anyway, I'm like, I think obviously fine tuning race weight and such is an important thing, but I think we have still enough work to do on the sort of absolute values, bringing the absolute power outputs, etc., to a higher level. So focusing too much on weight is going to have a negative impact on that likely, and also because fine tuning it a couple of kilos, we can do it without you actually losing any fat mass or skeletal muscle mass. It's mainly just to do with like water retention and sort of intestinal mass and things like that that can be tampered with a bit. In terms of your responses, well, during the submaximal step test, they are like normal as expected, and again during the ramp test we can see that you did maintain a normal arterial oxygen saturation, so there wasn't any significant pulmonary limitation to oxygen transport. But as in the previous tests, you could increase your breathing more relative to how much you're producing carbon dioxide at the end. But I think that's also got to do with the high absolute amounts of carbon dioxide produced rather than with any abnormal pulmonary limitation. Also, we can see that during the ramp test, your breathing pattern was still quite good. I mean, you were using quite a high tidal volume, so definitely like big deep breaths during the.
What was the breathing rate? I think mine was like 46 last time.
Yeah, 43. But this is actually isn't the final 30 seconds. This is the 30-second portion before that, because during the last sort of 15 seconds you kind of forgot to breathe. So I didn't.
I had my breath because
so I didn't use
a bad idea.
That portion of the data where you were holding your breath a bit and just like producing.
But I could feel it was way more clean in and out. Yeah. That was a limiter for me.
And definitely we can see that it's a very efficient breathing pattern that you're holding, in that there is very literal the sort of dead space to tidal volume ratio, i.e. like what fraction of your breathing actually doesn't participate in gas exchange is very, very low. So you're wasting basically only 1% of your breathing. It means that you're really efficiently. So we have the two numbers, the absolute ventilation, so how much you're breathing in and out, and then we have alveolar ventilation. So that's the proportion of the amount that's actually participating in gas exchange. So
in the lungs.
Yeah, so bringing oxygen in and carbon dioxide out, and we can see that there's barely no difference. I mean, you're at just basically 1% of your breath is wasted, whereas we consider, say, even at 10% would be like an okay value. So it's currently a very efficient breathing pattern. Maybe at the end, actually, you're holding such an efficient and clean breathing pattern, is that maybe at the end you could even like increase your breathing frequency a bit more, still try to maintain a high tidal volume, but looks good.
Next time I'm not going to hold my breath.
yeah, that will help as well. And on the cardiovascular side, It was also clean. We had a 2-lead ECG, so we can see if there's any. I mean, obviously, with like fit endurance athletes, we don't expect to see
Heart
any.
health,
So we don't expect to see any like drastic like things. But with you, there were like a few like ectopic beats, so where your heart sort of the signal for the contraction comes from somewhere else than where it should come from. But that's completely normal to have like a couple of like ectopic or extra beats during the test. So nothing abnormal there, and we can see that you're increasing oxygen uptake and increasing heart rate in a normal manner relative to how your power output is increasing. So on that aspect, everything is looking good. No abnormal responses. I think your peak blood lactate value was also actually just a bit up, so it was 11.1 millimoles. So the value scored during the last, when we did 3-minute loads, you scored 11.9, but it was a bit higher than during the previous ramp tests you've done. But
it felt like I can push higher.
Yeah. And this time, what we definitely saw during the ramp test is that previously during the ramp test, your oxygen uptake has sort of been increasing all the way to the end, and there hasn't been like a clear plateau. Today we saw that you got to a peak value and then it flattened out. It stayed there a while. Yeah. So that also tells that you're probably able to access your top range a bit better now. You're actually able to sort of maybe a bit from the muscle side means that you're able to fully tax out your sort of cardiovascular system, your pulmonary system during the test a bit better compared to the previous tests. Also, we can see that your maximal oxygen uptake has increased nicely compared to the previous test. So it's up from about 5 liters per minute to 5.25. So a 0.27 liters per minute increase. And if we say that about 10 milliliters of oxygen corresponds to 1 watt, we can say that that's sort of about would correspond to maybe 25 watts in terms of sort of power that you're able to produce aerobically. So a good increase on your maximal oxygen uptake. It has also increased relative to body weight, and is now higher compared to the previous test, even though your weight was a bit higher. Definitely, we see also a difference when we look at your like tests we did 1 year ago. We can also see there that for cycling, you're now at the highest VO2 max relative to body weight value. So obviously during the sort of late summer and autumn, and now you've been working a bit more on your body weight. And initially, when you've been working a bit more on your body weight, we saw that the absolute VO2 max values had also taken a bit of a hit. Now we're sort of getting them back up again. So looks good on that side. And knowing that during the winter, the main emphasis was on increasing, or a big emphasis was on increasing your maximal oxygen uptake. It's good to see that we've achieved that. And I mean, 0.25 liters or about that range is, I think, a good amount of improvement.
And the raw VO2 max number, what was it, 61 or 60?
61 now, so 61.4, 59 previously, 61.4 now,
yeah.
and absolute value is significantly up. So I mean, it's.
Do you think with those VO2 max numbers, I mean, it's not. Do you think, for example, to be world class also in a long distance triathlon, do you need to see a 70? Is that a kind of thing you need to see? I think in order to have the thresholds in the right area, I think you need to go there.
Yeah, I think we need to still work a bit on the VO2 max side as well, in sort of and probably need to see obviously for cycling. Obviously, we want to look at power relative to body weight, but then absolute power is probably more crucial for bikes. So there we have certain like absolute VO2 numbers. So I think for bike, getting close to 5.5 liters would be like a really good target. But we need to sort of backwards calculate a bit. And actually, the way I approach it is look at so let's say you have an idea of what sort of absolute power output you need to be able to do for the long course Ironman maybe 350-ish. So then we can say that would maybe be correspond to about 4.5 liters in terms of oxygen uptake if you want to average 350 watts for long course Ironman. And I think we can bring that to, and that should be quite close to your LT1. So then we know that you'd probably for those values we still want your absolute VO2 to be actually even like closer to 6 liters per minute.
Okay, now I'm at 5.5.
Yeah.
So a minimum of 6 kind of for VO2.
Yeah. So bringing
it does make sense. Like I felt as well. I feel like there's a lot of potential still with VO2. Yeah. But now we're going towards the season. You can't do VO2 forever, right?
Yeah. So now obviously now when we look at your results, that's sort of if we take that your LT1 should be about 350, and I think that's maybe even shooting a bit like that should definitely be a good value, and we'll be looking at or LT or VT1, and then we'll be looking at a high level about 75. Your LT1 could be at about 75 to 80% of your VO2 max. So if we use those values as a sort of way to look at, we can see that currently you're maybe have room to improve your VO2 max, but actually since your first threshold is currently sitting at about 64% of your VO2 max, then we can definitely we can push your first threshold higher relative to VO2 max, and that would already get a good boost on that side. And I think it's also spent about 2 to 3 months working on VO2 max stuff. That's a typical duration. After that,
plateau,
if you keep working on that,
no, you can tell you can't go there forever, right?
Yeah,
but I think it makes sense. Now we have, early May is the first half distance race, then mid-June is the first full, like 1 or 2 weeks easy, and maybe then we can return to VO2 or like do another circle like that.
Yeah, definitely, and that's also my idea is that I want to keep a sort of rotation in terms of the high intensity or key workouts in that, depending on what type of work you're doing, 1 to 3 months of a specific, whether it's second threshold VO2 max or like,
so not spend like 6 months in one area. So always shock a new way kind of.
Because typically what you see is that once you switch the focus to slightly new types of workouts, first 1 to 2 months you have a slightly more linear rate of progression with the workouts, and then you start seeing that it becomes a struggle to really get any progression there. So I think that's typically when we look to change to a new focus point. But again, I was just on the background, I was calculating a bit. So if we would think that we want the first threshold to be 350, and we assume that it's somewhere between 75 and 80% of VO2 max is about the highest we can bring it to, that would mean that currently you're at 5.25 for VO2. That would mean a 5.6 to 6 liters per minute range. So it means that there's obviously, but if we've now come from sort of 4.9 something to 5.25 in 3-4 months, then obviously if we're thinking long term.
Yeah, like a year or whatever.
Couple of years.
Exactly.
Then it's definitely just pushing that.
Yeah, it takes time. Yeah, of course.
But right now, I think what we want to do and focus on is on bringing your thresholds up, and particularly bringing them up in your TT position, because I think today's, especially while you did a step test just with blood lactate values about a month ago, and from there we saw clear improvement, but that was in the upright riding position. So now it was definitely interesting to do today's step test in the aero position, because we can see quite a significant difference in your blood lactate response. You actually start but what is actually even more interesting is that there is a bit of a difference in your ventilatory and blood lactate responses now. Typically, we'd expect to see, in most of the cases, we see that the ventilatory thresholds and the blood lactate thresholds match each other quite nicely. You can basically say that they're at a similar intensity. Today, I was actually expecting that, because we did the ramp test in the upright position, is that we'd see higher ventilatory thresholds in the ramp test compared to the ventilatory.
In the aero, huh?
Yeah, compared to the ventilatory thresholds in the aero. So just looking at the ventilatory thresholds in the two. But actually, the ventilatory threshold values were really similar. It was actually really easy to see both the ramp test and step test ventilatory threshold values. And they're quite identical.
Okay. Could it be muscular fatigue? Or?
And then the only thing where we see the difference is actually blood lactate values. And we also know that when you test in the upright position for the step test, you have lower blood lactate values, whereas in the aero position, your ventilatory thresholds are higher, but your blood lactate thresholds are a bit lower. So,
but for training, you would always listen to blood lactate, right? Or would I go with...
well, right now I'm thinking that maybe not. I think we maybe want to, and we maybe need to again see a bit how things keep on going with training. But with blood lactate, you start actually increasing blood lactate at a really quite low intensity.
It could be muscular fatigue just now, because I'm not coming out from an easy week and I had a training and run and all that.
Yeah, well,
but it does feel the same as when I did.
Typically, when you have like hard loading phases and you do tests in the middle, typically the more typical response I see is that the blood lactate response start lagging behind the ventilatory threshold responses. So that's typical like glycogen depletion response. Maybe now
glycogen should be good.
Yeah, maybe now you've been also taking care that you had enough carbs for today's session, so that might also show on the blood lactate values, because in the end, lactate is basically half a glucose molecule. So when you're sort of your body was maybe quite happy to start driving that side up. But I think we want to focus a bit more on the ventilatory thresholds as I think the ventilatory thresholds actually match better what we see in your typical training responses when you've been monitoring blood lactate.
Yeah.
So right now, at 330 watts, you were up to 5.3. But we know when you're doing typical training sessions at that, and you're doing like 15-minute intervals, repeated 15-minute intervals, you're staying at 3-ish in terms of blood lactate.
Yeah.
So we can see that that's a bit strange that you're now up there. And so it's actually, and actually, if you look at, you already start sort of increasing blood lactate very early on.
Yeah.
I don't think that really matches what's going on in terms of your training. Whereas when you look at the first ventilatory threshold, I put that at 270. The second ventilatory threshold at 310. And I think there's even room for some maneuver there. But definitely, but I think the clearest picture from today is that no matter which metric you look at, your VO2 max and the top end has improved nicely. And then when we compare for the actual threshold responses, we can see that maybe your first threshold has come up a bit. It's at a higher power output compared to the previous test, but similar heart rate. But the second threshold is definitely actually falling a bit behind, in that it's now actually at a lower fraction of your maximal oxygen uptake compared to the previous test. So basically we widened your sort of the maximal aerobic area, sort of zone 5. But now we want to make sure that now that
a higher percentage of VO2 max, right? Yeah.
So now we by improving and focusing on improving your VO2 max, we've sort of increased the sort of ceiling of your aerobic performance. Now we want to bring the sort of floors up to match that.
That was the plan always, anyways.
Yeah, and that's definitely been the plan all the way along to first, because that's also the idea that in terms of work, we want to sort of increase the specificity of your training to match what's going to happen in races as the races approach. So for an Ironman triathlete, I'd say winter is the optimal time for focusing on VO2 max work, because that's when your best sort of that's not quite that specific to the racing intensity. So if you're doing VO2 max intervals right before your Ironman race, you're probably not like it's going to be quite a shock what you then have to do in a race. So now we're trying to approach.
I mean, for pro racing, there are these surges. You still need to have it, but in the end, you need to be strong aerobically, right?
Yeah. So now we've been working on the top end, and now we're coming closer to the racing season. We want to move to work that's more specific. So we want to move from sort of VO2 max work to second threshold to then like longer sort of around the first threshold type of stuff. So the training sessions increasingly become more like the actual racing would be. Yeah. Maybe then might have like a short block at some point to top up your VO2 max work a bit, but that's definitely something where we need to look at your racing schedule and think how to best plan for that. But to me, this shows that we're probably on the right track, and that we want to now definitely focus the higher intensity sessions. We want to keep those around your second threshold. We also look
in the aero position.
Yeah, in the aero position, and we want to start making sure that you're able to get everything up there. And for that, I think also some sort of like neuromuscular work where we actually target slightly higher power outputs, but you maintain similar sort of metabolic responses. So the 30-30s that you've been doing in the aero position should also sort of make the adaptation to that new position, or not new, but to the aero position a bit faster also.
Yeah. I mean, position is also new. It's only since January, so it's a few things changing, right?
Yeah. And this also shows maybe that we started executing the intervals on values based from
sitting
upright and then overshot those a bit. So now it's definitely.
But that's why we had the lactate to control.
Yeah.
Would you then, for the threshold sessions, we talked about probably increase them, because I did 60 minutes of threshold load before.
Yeah.
And now we go towards like 75, 90.
Yeah.
Would you then look to ventilatory? So should I look at heart rate and RPE instead of actually measuring lactate?
Well, in my philosophy, I never trust like any single metric alone, because any of them can be deceptive. I think we don't need to concentrate too much on the blood lactate stuff, but I think it's still good to like occasionally during the actual training sessions to do some tests to see that we are in the sort of range where we'd want to be. Also, again, because when we're doing the type of testing we were doing today, we were doing 5-minute loads and then the ramp test at each intensity, but things are not fixed only based on intensity. Duration also affects things, and there actually the blood lactate response that we might see is that your blood lactate first increases but then stabilizes, and it can even start decreasing slightly during sort of longer sub-second threshold stuff. So it's also the sort of blood lactate versus time, and we get a different picture when you do even longer loads during your actual training sessions. But you've now been doing them. I think it's especially when we want to add intensity during the LT2 or second threshold workouts. That's when it's a good time to monitor that we're not adding too much intensity. But definitely we want to make sure that we have a good sort of progressive overload going on there. So we want want to go. Maybe we're not ready to push the power up right now.
More volume,
so
right?
I think we first push the volume up. I think then when we've done that for a bit, we should be able to push the power up again. I think also just getting ready to working more in the aero position and utilizing blood lactate, and the working muscles both produce and utilize blood lactate. But then when you're riding in the upright position, it's a slightly different combination of which muscles are doing how much work. And there, in each of those muscle groups, the fast twitch fibers are maybe producing a bit more blood lactate, whereas the slow twitch fibers are clearing it from the blood. When we're shifting the positions, I think now to train that stuff, we need to get the sort of exact specific muscle groups and muscle activation patterns, making sure that we're training exactly the muscles that are in the threshold. I mean, the difference is not that big compared to I mean, it's still cycling, but it's still like quite significant.
Yeah.
So it's not like running versus cycling, but it's still, I would still consider aero versus upright like almost two different disciplines or sports.
Yeah, I feel still. So I mean, this block stays the same anyway. So the Tuesday stays the 4 times 10 minute 30 is just an aero.
Yeah,
and we stay at the same volume there, 4 times 10 minutes. You think? Or?
I think yes. On a Tuesday workout, what dictates is more the running session there. I think that's the more important to focus there, and the cycling we want to do a hard-ish training session, but something that doesn't compromise other workouts too much. And for cycling, the key workouts to me are then in terms of your sort of metabolic and cardiovascular adaptations are actually the Thursday Friday session, and then the longer sort of LT1-ish sets, and I think you've been doing some. Have you've been doing also the LT1 sets at the aero?
Yeah, all aero.
Yeah. And there actually I think your blood lactate readings have been
felt really good.
Been quite okay. So I think
I think it's some adaptation going on. Like first when you go in, it's kind of almost like the lactate ramps up, like 10-15 minutes or something. Like even the first threshold interval really spikes.
Yeah.
And then I had this one rest, and then it was at 8.
Yeah.
Went only a little bit down, and suddenly it was at 3.
Yeah.
So there is some kind of maybe just shock to the system, adaptation to the position. Something is going on.
Yeah.
But anyways.
And maybe also pay attention that you do the warm ups in the aero position. At least like transition to the aero position like early enough doing the warm up to make sure that you're activating the right muscles and doing them correctly. But I think that's what we've been seeing is that, and I think that's again what we sort of see today in the step test is that maybe if after we did the first step test you recovered a bit, we did a second step test, you would have had like lower.
I think so, because I felt it even though I was sitting up, but I think even if it would have been an aero the second one, it felt somehow cleared better. But
so this is also why like the way I like to think about testing here is that obviously to see whether you're sort of improving or not, this test helps. But in terms of whether you're improving or not, it would be easy to just give you some all-out tests to do at home, and then we could do, let's say, 60-minute all-out tests at home, or 5 or different durations, and we could see sort of whether you're improving or not. But here it's more to look at what is actually happening in the sort of engine and which aspects of your fitness have improved and which have not, whether the things that we have targeted with training have improved or not. And then obviously to choose the best targets to focus on improving further and also then get an idea of what the correct sort of workload intensities for those targets are.
So for this block and April, you would still look at threshold also. Threshold, just progression probably. I mean, I think still have time. But
I think we need to actually. So if you can recap, what's your racing program?
So 4th of May we got the 70.3. So that's half distance,
Yeah.
And then 15th of June, we got the full Ironman. That's the main one. So the main race, that's what I was even thinking. Because, for example, right now, I'm not going to win the 70.3, right? So I rather, let's say, sacrifice the April for training that benefits me for the Ironman instead of trying to peak for the half, which is not going to make a difference in my life anyways. If I'm 10th or 15th or 20th, it makes no difference. Yeah. So I rather do whatever is necessary to peak as much as we can anyways. There's only limited time for everything, but I rather have the main focus on the Ironman, which is the main race.
Yeah.
So I was already thinking about, because I mean, it's 3 months, there's no magic there, right? Like, because if you only start, I don't know, yeah.
And then after the Ironman, are you then?
That depends. I mean, there are qualifying slots. If I qualify for Nice for World Champs, that's mid-September. That's one. If I don't qualify, then I'll look for another Ironman. But top 5 probably. I mean, top 3, 100% guaranteed slots.
Yeah.
Top 5, it probably drops down. It's probably 2 guys, I would say. But I mean, that's outcome. We don't know. But
yeah, definitely the way I'd progress with this, that I'd view the half Ironman as a sort of training race. It's on the
exactly.
We're moving to that direction in terms of intensity, but I mean it's about 2 months from now.
No, it's not my peak A race or anything.
No. So we don't really want to start peaking that much. And anyway, actually, like the way I look at, obviously you need some peaking and tapering for races, but the way I look at it is that actually 1 to 2 weeks max.
Yeah, one max.
If sometimes, especially with triathletes, I see like very long sort of tapers, and I think that's mainly because they're sort of overloading too much on the training phase. So if you need a month to taper for a race, I think that something maybe training before that should have been a bit different. So yeah, I'm looking. But anyway, I think since you have your key full Ironman race in June, we're basically going the right way in terms of progression. And I think now I want to keep on just increasing specificity. Then maybe after the June, we'll return to VO2 max type work.
Because the 70.3, basically it's a good zone 3, zone 4. Hard workout for 4 hours. That's it.
So anyway, the workouts you'd be doing before that, particularly for cycling. With running, we're maybe at a slightly different phase now, but particularly for cycling, the workouts that you're already doing now and progressing towards are really quite specific to the half Ironman intensity.
Yeah, it's going anyway.
So I mean, if we're looking at doing like 6 times 15 minutes, then that's basically almost the Ironman, half Ironman bike leg, like very close to that anyway. So I think we're definitely keep this sort of rate that we're doing now. Focus on, I mean, we know that probably the VO2 max stuff that will have work will maybe take a slight hit. You're doing some neuromuscular higher intensity stuff to maintain that side a bit. But to me, the gap on the threshold side is now so big that I like if we can bring those up significantly, maybe even slightly at the expense of your VO2 values, then I'm okay with that. Also regarding like future training and future improving your VO2 max, actually getting your second threshold to about 90% of your VO2 max would be a really good goal, because it would mean that already working around your second threshold should stimulate adaptations in VO2 max. Right now we are at a situation where there's a big gap from your threshold to your VO2 max. Then to improve and work on your VO2 max, we also had to push. That's
why it felt so good for me to go in those ranges, right?
Yeah.
Probably.
So we had to go quite significantly higher than your threshold. But right now, we'll alter the focus and anyway, we know that the longer power outputs are what's necessary to do well at races.
Yeah.
So.
All right, we are all set. Time for lunch now. Was a bit longer discussion. I tried to cut it a bit shorter, so it's not too much. We went quite in depth with all the data, but there will be still some analysis coming and some more things for training. But we got a really good estimate overall, getting better, and we know what to work on. We are on track, what we try to achieve, which is great. And yeah, all in for the long haul, obviously, and make every decision that is, benefit me in the long term. Not, making super long tapers or super long race specific. Everything I gotta do step by step to get towards the top. And that means also not over racing, not like racing 8 times a year, traveling 10 times a year. All that is not gonna help me for ultimate what gets me to my goal, but is training, recovery. So now it's time for recovery, some good food. There will be more info and data and all that coming for what's following for my next block. But I see you guys tomorrow.